Welcome to this video. I will show you how humans pull out of a glacial. Glacial is an ice age. So this is the last ice age, and this is the Holocene or the interglacial we are in right now. So this is roughly 12,900 years ago, and we are in a dip. We are in a very profound short glacial. So in fact, you could see it as a continuation of the ice age still. And this is 12,900. The people, the scientists and alternative historians claim that Göbekli Tepe is 12,900 years ago. So I will show that Göbekli Tepe and its network of similar sites is in fact of, pulling off the Holocene by means of agriculture. We have plenty of videos that show or even prove that agriculture rises temperature. And in this one, I will try to show that agriculture pulls humans, has the potential to pull humans out of a glacial. I will handle this in a minute. I will talk about this pull off of the Holocene. Holocene. So this is Göbekli Tepe, and it's the installation of our ancestors or of certain hybrids in the Fertile Crescent, amongst others in Göbekli Tepe. And you will understand that they are quite advanced in agriculture, in pulling out of a glacial, and in navigation. So they start here, and in roughly 1,000 years, they have pulled off initially slowly, and then a sudden rise, and goes on rising until 8,000 years ago. And this is the point where David-Reich and ancient DNA research detects more or less between 12,000 and 8,000, but certainly at 8,000, we certainly have four new groups in Europe, and they will form the later modern Europeans, and they will overturn, replace all earlier, let's call them native Europeans, and by more or less by 4,500, the new hybrids, Y-DNA haplogroup R, is totally installed. And so from here on, we're all haplogroup AR1A or AR1B, and we're coming from the Americas, as the ancestral markers indicate. The ancestor, the cradle of R1A and R1B lies in the Americas as R1. R1 is the mother or the parents, and R1A and R1B are the descendants or the children, and that are the modern Europeans. So Göbekli Tepe pulls off the Holocene by means of agriculture. At least that's one of the parts. Agriculture is recognized to be roughly 10,000 years, but there's indications that there was agriculture or soon would be agriculture in Göbekli Tepe from 12,900 years ago. So this is the time Göbekli Tepe and the whole network was built. Before 8,000, David-Reich and not just David-Reich, very extensive ancient DNA research conclude that in this period, four groups were installed in Europe and Western Eurasia. And then, as we know, around 6,000 several cultures developed, so to speak, like Mesopotamia, the supposed cradle of humanity, which in fact is haplogroup R, which has its root cradle in the Americas. So Göbekli Tepe and its network is part of a whole that pulls off the Holocene. And we will prove that they do this, amongst others, with agriculture. We will give you at least three proofs of it in the course of this period. But the most important one is this one. Is is the Younger Dryas, but it goes on and at least until, let's say, until here, roughly 8,000 years ago. What this is a first trial that doesn't work out. This is very important because apart from agriculture, there's other kind of tricks of the ancients to pull off the Holocene. So, but let's talk about this sudden rise that is in fact bigger than this sudden rise. It most probably makes the poles melt too quick. That the speed of melting the poles is of extreme importance. It melts off the poles and it stops the AMOC, and we collapse into a glacial, at least partly. Collapse again, collapse again. So this could be the efforts to get out of it, and it could be natural. Anyhow, there's a collapse back to a glacial that is steeper than at least the end of the last ice age and the pre-Holocene. So it's quite deep. And that's why they call the Younger Dryas an ice age, while in fact it's a warming, an extreme warming. It's pulling off the Holocene. So we see we have two things. We have glacials to fear, at least from the standpoint of a Holocene, and everything on this world, this we 8 billion people, are based, everything is based on Holocene. So if we collapse, crash into a glacial, we're in big trouble. While in itself, it's not trouble. It's trouble if you're completely dependent on Holocene. Then any glacial is trouble, is extinction and collapse of about everything, at least outside of the tropics, because the tropics will be minimally affected compared to what is not tropics. So anyhow, one of our dangers is collapsing into a glacial, and the other danger is melting too quick the poles, so the AMOC stops, and we collapse also in a glacial. In fact, the glacial is the normal, and the Holocene is artificial. It's pulled off by humans. Very clever humans, by the way. As said before, in Göbekli Tepe, we see they had agricultural plants, so they had pulled off hybrids, plants, but also animals, and we will illustrate later that they pulled off hybrid humans as well. This for at least 2 million years. We will come to this 2 million years in a minute because this is only 20,000 years, and we're talking about this Marking point 12,900 years ago, Göbekli Tepe. So they are excellent navigators because they come from the Americas. They are excellent hybridizers because the hybrid plants still today come mostly from the Americas. They are excellent planners because it's no easy feat to pull out successfully out of a Holocene, out of a glacial and into a Holocene. Um, okay, so very quickly here, this is South America, this is North America, this is Europe, Western Eurasia, Mediterranean, and Mesopotamia is around, well, is in this region. It's at the end, at the dead end of the Mediterranean. So we know that Europe is populated by R1A and R1B, Y-DNA haplogroup R1A and R1B, and the cradle of R1A and R1B is R1, and it's in the Americas. And this is the stream these navigators follow to enter the Mediterranean and to get into Göbekli Tepe and Mesopotamia. But there's another way. That probably is the earliest way. But this is important for Europe and even for Western Eurasia and for the world. So Americas, this is how picks up, the current picks up the ships, or rather the fleets, and delivers them to Ireland, United Kingdom, France, Karnak, Mediterranean. So this is extremely important for Europe, and even South America can play a role, and this is the way they navigate. And they learn to navigate the Portuguese and the Spanish, etc. And in fact, it's gyres, so they can turn back, and they certainly did. And they certainly lived from whale hunting. The same here. They are in contact. They can easily get around. So the figure until now was this Holocene. It's Antarctica around 0 degrees because this is Antarctica. This is ice cores in Antarctica. And what we see here is a repetition of this interglacial, this interglacial, this interglacial. So the Holocene is the latest interglacial, and that's where we are in. The normal is the glacial, but only humans can only thrive in the tropics, possibly subtropics, and certainly not outside them. We see that our Holocene we are in is the most extend is the longest. This is a bit shorter. This is much shorter, a bit shorter. This is as long or possibly longer. So what they pulled off here, they pulled off here as well, and here as well. And if you see look at the time scale, you will see that it is roughly for every 100,000 years. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles, and it's 400,000 years, 100,000 years each cycle. And they pull it off here, and there's of course a reason. They pull it off every 100,000 years and not in between. That's for the next video. But these interglacials are more of the same of what I just explained about our actual Holocene, and they are pulled off, amongst others, with agriculture. You see that in the last pull off, you see this is most probably the younger Dryas. It's a break off of the pull out of the glacial. And why do I say most likely? Because this is Antarctica, and this is not, let's say, the region of Mesopotamia and not the northern hemisphere, but they are very much associated. The ice cores in Greenland are pretty much identical.